Wherever legendary MLB moments happen, Budweiser will be there. Buy Shelter Insurance for your auto, home, and life. We're your shield, we're your shelter. And buy Steak and Shake. Mix and match any two for just $3. Better burgers, better prices, Steak and Shake. Along with Todd Hollandsworth, I'm Dan McLaughlin. It's a split feed, if you will. We're on Fox Sports Florida and Fox Sports Midwest. And for the Cardinals, it's a split squad, but many of their regulars are in the lineup here at Roger Dean Stadium. So the Marlins and the Cardinals share this complex, and here we go. Michael Wacha will get the call today for the St. Louis Cardinals. So far, the record 0-2. The ERA is at 6, 9 innings. 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, but Todd, as you've seen over the years, this guy can be pretty good.
Well, he's turned into a veteran. That's absolutely true. That changeup, certainly his best pitch. Good fastball command. Yeah, don't buy into that spring training ERA quite yet. Got knocked around a little bit by the Yankees the last time out, but all in all, this is a guy who's putting in his innings and getting his reps as he gets ready for the season.
Today's Marlins starting lineup is brought to you by Papa John's Pizza. It'll be Cameron Maybin, Derek Dietrich, Starlin Castro. Then Justin Bour, Brian Anderson is at third. Lewis Brinson picked up from Milwaukee in the Yelich deal. Chad Wallach, Miguel Rojas, and Sandy Alcantara. So the designated hitter not being used by either side in today's game. Gold Glover last year with the Marlins, now with the Cardinals, Marcell Ozuna. Tommy Pham is in center. Adolis Garcia is in right. Wisdom, DeYoung, Wong, and Voit on the infield. Yadier Molina is behind the plate, and Michael Wacha is on the mound. It's been a pretty good camp for the Marlins. They're 12-6-1 at the start of play today.
Yeah, they really have. They've been playing good baseball. The one thing that really stands out is how good the pitching has been so far this spring training. The pitching's been outstanding. They've played pretty good defense. The offense, well, I don't want to dare say a little bit slow, but it's probably going to be the story this year. Improved pitching, a good defense. Perry Hill certainly getting it done with this crew once again, but the offense might be a little bit less than it was last year.
Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly's been with the Dodgers and Miami. A lot of teaching, I'm sure, will be going on this year with the younger club that the Marlins have.
Yeah, I like to use the phrase internal competition. That's probably what explains the 12-6 record so far. A lot of competition going on with this group right now, not only in camp. Obviously, they want to go out there and impress and win over their manager, Don Mattingly. And that's what's going on. When you got jobs that are open and available, you go out every day like it's a big league game.
Cameron Maybin, a world champion with the Astros last year, picked up by Houston. Started the year with the Angels, and back to where it all began for Cameron Maybin with the Marlins.
And he's got a real opportunity, and his role has changed just a little bit. He was kind of the young guy around here first time through. See a good fastball by Wacha right there. For Maybin, he's in a leadership role, and I think that's part of the job description when he came over here. They're going to get a lot of opportunity at the top of that lineup, maybe filling D. Gordon's shoes. Steal some of those bases, but again, help some of the younger players.
1-2 is fouled back. Maybin, when you think about him with the Marlins, you think about the big deal with Miguel Cabrera. He was part of that deal and came over as a teenager at that time, and now he's a veteran wearing that Marlins uniform.
Well, he certainly can speak to the transition. It's what Derek Jeter and company really are trying to settle down with this organization. They want to get to a place where there's consistency and camaraderie throughout the organization from year to year to year. And right now, yeah, I mean, they're on their 4th owner in 25 years. That says an awful lot about the Marlins' situation over the last quarter decade.
2-2 pitch, and Maybin waves at it. Strikeout from Michael Wacha.
You see that big over-the-top breaking ball from Wacha right there. Certainly fooled Maybin. He was way out in front, pulled off just a little bit. Nice pitch.
Here's Derek Dietrich. He's in left field today. Numbers on Wacha a year ago, 30 starts, and that's really the key number for him. And around Cardinals camp over the last couple of years, it's always been about his shoulder. Will it hold up? Well, there's been no issues whatsoever, and Michael made 30 starts a season ago. Dietrich hitting .333 with a couple of home runs, and he's driven in 5. And he drills that. Deep right field. Will it stay fair? It's hooking, and it is gone. Home run, Derek Dietrich, his 3rd of the spring.
Well, how do you do, Derek Dietrich? First good fastball he can get his hands on. He rips to right. Marlins will certainly be looking for a lot of that power this year. Impressive season last year, second half. Finished strong. You see that leg kick and that front side down in time. I was looking at some video talking to Derek a little bit earlier today. My, oh my, is he hot right now. Certainly wants to see this transition into the season, but a great swing of the bat right there. 1-0 Marlins here in the first.
He's been with the Marlins since 2012, so he's seen some of those veterans come and go and part of this rebuild, if you will, for Miami. And here's Starlin Castro. Comes to Miami in the Giancarlo Stanton deal with the Yankees. Hit 300 last year, four-time All-Star. It seems like he's been around forever with Chicago and then New York and now Miami. Good player.
Very good player. Very good hitter. Uses all fields. I had him in Chicago. Got to cover him as a young man coming up and kind of the guy that represented the rebuild in Chicago early on.
Second season in the big leagues with the Cubs. That year he led the league in hits. He was the youngest player in the history of baseball to do so.
207, I believe.
That's right. Always he's been able to hit. It's that breaking ball. He swings through that. 2-2. Marlins last year 77 and 85. A lot of new faces. A lot of opportunities. 2-2 pitch. Little tapper up the third base line. And it's rolling fair. Baseball is just a weird game, isn't it?
You know, it certainly is. And you know what? I couldn't help. I don't do this very often, but occasionally you get guys with numbers against the guy, right? So you see that ball right there hit the line and then take a little right turn right there and stay fair. So that's going to go as a base hit. 70 feet worth, right? So Starlin comes in against Waka. Get this, Danny, you'll love this. 12 for 25 with 3 home runs. And I made a note of that, but I thought, you know what, it's spring training. We're not going to make a big deal about this. But then you see that hit right there, and sometimes it explains the 12 for 25, right?
13 now for 26.
Right.
And none softer than that one.
Most definitely.
Here's Justin Bour, hitting 174, no home runs, and he has driven in 4. Good play there by Yadier Molina to keep it in front. Big question mark, it seemed like, with every camp, would Bour hit against left-handed pitching? It seems like he's made that adjustment.
I got to the point last year where Justin would get mad at me and just about everybody else if we brought it up. That's how good he got. It was to the point where, like, have I not done enough now that we can stop talking about this? Don't bring it up anymore. Don't ask me whether I can handle lefties. Hit very well, good offensive approach, and it wasn't an all or nothing. Certainly took his walks, had a good on-base percentage against them, including some home runs as well. So, yes, he is an everyday answer at first base and certainly in the middle of this Marlins lineup.
Hit 253 against the lefties a year ago. Pretty good Rule 5 pickup in 2013 off the Cubs AAA roster. Justin Bour with 25 home runs a season ago.
He may be the only Marlin whose role won't change this year. You know, last year he was a middle of the lineup bat. He's a middle of the lineup bat now. For Starlin Castro, right, he's getting thrust into the 3-hole and certainly probably being asked to do some leadership, some big stuff at the top of that lineup. Even Derek Dietrich, who now has, finds himself in the 2-hole, is being looked upon as, hey, one of the veterans here to help lead this young Marlins team.
Cardinals have a shift on here for Bour. There's the splits. Very respectable against the lefties. Was 6 of the 25 home runs against Southpaws, and now the 3-1 pitch. 3-2. This past week, it's been pretty cool down here in Florida for Florida terms. Cool. People in the Midwest saying shut up.
It's so cold. So true.
But very warm here today. Runner goes, and it's pulled foul past Luke Voigt.
Danny, you know how that goes. I came here from Chicago about a year ago, and it only takes about a year to get soft down here, right? My wife said to me the other night as we were outside, I was a little late in the evening. We were getting back from some of our son's baseball games, and the air was a little chilly. It was like like 65,
right? And
we were like, boy, I need a jacket. It's cold out here.
Your blood gets thin, doesn't it?
The transition happens so fast. It really is amazing. You get soft, is what they say down here.
3-2 the count here on Justin Bour. This is technically a Cardinal home game here this afternoon. Runner late in going and out at second. They turn the double play. Castro a little hesitant on the 3-2 pitch to start running. And because of that, a double play. Derek Dietrich, solo home run. He knew it. His third of the spring, 1-0 after a half inning.
Ingredients, better pizza.
Derek Dietrich with a solo home run, his third of the spring. He's had a very good spring, has also driven in 6, and because of that, it's a 1-0 Marlins lead. As Sandy Alcantara, the former Cardinal, will get the start today for the Marlins. So 1-0 our score. Alcantara, he is a flamethrower. Fun to watch and should be supplanted in that rotation for Miami.
You guys should be familiar with him. Now, the arsenal hasn't changed, although he's getting an opportunity to be in that rotation this year, and certainly he's even spoken about it. Likes to wear the orange. Certainly the Marlins orange, believes that, there's going to be an opportunity in this rotation to develop and grow. He wasn't sure that was going to happen with St. Louis. So, again, we know that he's got a huge arm. Great slider, throws at 88, 89 miles an hour, and that big over-the-top fastball. And get up to 99 miles an hour at times.
Here's Colton Wong, just 115 his average. No home runs, driven in a couple. Alcantara, the Cardinals saw him come out of the bullpen a year ago, tail end of last season, and boy, it was fun to watch. Some Marlins fans are going to get a treat watching this young man. I was working with one game with Rick Horton, who's been around baseball a long, long time, player, broadcaster, and he said, Dan, I think I've seen something for the first time in tonight's game, watching Alcantara. And here's a 1-1, ground ball that's handled at first for the first out. He said, I don't think I've ever seen a 98-mile-an-hour sinker.
It's unbelievable. I was just getting ready to chime in there early on, but I kind of wanted for Alcantara to kind of develop here in the first inning just to see where it was going to go. But he's got one of the heaviest, high-velocity fastballs in the game of baseball. It's so much fun to watch. And guess what? The one thing that we've seen this spring is that he's commanding it.
There's a look at your Papa John's lineup for St. Louis. And that really has been the question mark with Alcantara, and for any young pitcher. It's about, these big live arms and guys throwing triple digits, but you got to have control. You got to be able to spot it.
Well, and that strike zone gets a little bit smaller with high velocity.
Pham, a fly ball into right, and the catch is made. 2 quick outs. Marlins defensively with Derek Dietrich in left field. Lewis Brinson, he can go get him. He's in center. Maben in right. Anderson, Rojas, Castro, and Bohr on the infield. And Chad Wallach is behind the plate. Nice round of applause for Yadier Molina. .226 here in spring with 1 home run. That was to center field in this ballpark, and he's driven in 6. Yadi in year 1 of a 3-year extension. Think the Cardinals, you think Yadier Molina?
Well, there's no doubt about it. It kind of caught me off guard. I believe it was a little earlier in the spring. Correct me if I'm wrong, Danny. But it kind of sounded like he knew that, when he signed this extension, it was going to allow him to finish his career as a Cardinal. And that's kind of the, what we've heard is as great as his career was, as good as he was offensively last year for Yadi. He's looking at, hey, listen, I got 3 more years left. I want to win a championship.
He said, and we have a winter warm-up in St. Louis, kind of a kickoff to the season as Molina kicks that one into another gear. Left field, and we are tied. Second home run of the spring for Yadier Molina.
Yadi jumped all over that. Got ahead in the count 2-1. Got something to his liking up in the zone. Did not miss it. Certainly did not disappoint. His second home run this spring.
Just to finish the story, but Yadi was asked about the extension, and he said, yeah, it would allow me to more than likely finish my career as a Cardinal, and I would retire after the 3 years. After hearing that, I say seeing is believing. Let's wait till the 3 years.
Right.
How much is left in that tank? Here's the home run by Molina.
You see the difference in pitch location. Alcantara, as we were praising him just prior to. Down, down, down in the zone.
Ozuna hits that ball inside the third base line. It's tied up in the Marlins bullpen. And it's a double for Marcell Ozuna against his former team. What can Cardinal fans expect on a daily basis from Marcell Ozuna?
Yeah, player. Well, I'll start right off the top with a player that shows up ready to play every day. Marcell Ozuna is a pro's pro. I think back to, and listen, offensively, he was outstanding last year. He probably would have gotten a lot more MVP hype if it wasn't for Giancarlo Stanton. But the one thing I'll let Cardinal fans in on was this man showed up. I go back to a time in May where he was struggling a little bit with the bat. He played some of his best defense of the year as he was trying to help this Marlins team get out of a May funk. But the problem, or what I applaud him for, was that's what he is. He shows up, plays both sides of the ball every day.
Here's Paul DeYoung. A couple of home runs this spring. Both have been at the ballpark of the Palm Beaches. And last year he popped 25 home runs and recently signed a 6-year extension. Be curious to see the Marlins and other teams that aren't the Yankees or the Cubs or the Dodgers, meaning that'll spend freely. If this is the prototypical type of signing for a lot of different clubs, you buy out arbitration years, couple of years of free agency, and you roll the dice. You give the young man security, but you hope he lives up to the expectations. As DeYoung sends a fly ball out to deep right field, Maben going back in front of the track and makes the catch. Couple of home runs, one by Derek Dietrich, and this one moments ago. Yadier Molina, his second of the spring. 1 inning in the books, and it's 1-1. With this Hall of Fame bobblehead, that's right, the Cardinals Hall of Fame car parade bobblehead. It's courtesy of Ford. That's Saturday, April 7th. 30,000 fans, 16 and older, surprised at the gates when they find out which mystery Hall of Famer they will receive. For more information, visit cardinals.com/promotions. Yadier Molina has tied this game up 1-1, 2 hits aside as we move to the top of the second. It'll be Brian Anderson, Lewis Brinson, and Chad Wallach. What are you giggling about?
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking, the day and age we talk about knowledge of each other. Like, the Marlins and the Cardinals play 7 times this spring. I was just thinking about the swings that we saw in the first inning. Like, I know what you've got. I know what you bring into the table. I'm going to be ready for that 2-1 fastball up in the zone.
And there's a fly ball off the bat of Anderson to Tommy Pham. Let's take a look at our Toyota keys to the game. Miami, stick to the script. Cardinals don't change a thing.
Yeah, well, talking about sticking to the script, well, what's the Marlins' way so far this spring training? And they've been good, 12-6. They've pitched. They've played a little defense. As I said, the offense has been okay. And I kind of expect it to probably maybe struggle a little bit this year. We'll certainly see how that goes. It's definitely going to be different. Not as many home runs, but pitch. They continue to pitch and compete each and every day. That's why you see that great record. Don't change a thing. Really just talking about Waka. Kind of getting into a groove, again, coming off, I don't want to dare say a bad spring training start. I don't think that necessarily was it his last time against the Marlins. But that changeup being a big, big pitch for him. We see a lot of curveballs today so far.
Lewis Brinson, local product, grew up in South Florida, attended Coral Springs High School, and he grew up watching the Marlins and excited to play for his hometown team.
Yeah, on to his third organization. Brinson has definitely been pretty impressive so far this spring. Uses all fields. Can hit high velocity. We've seen that a couple of times this spring. You see the good average there at 351.
Part of the Christian Yelich deal with Milwaukee. Another chance for Pham. He'll go back near the track and on the track makes the catch.
Nice job by Pham. Didn't take his eyes off the ball. You certainly don't want to do that, particularly today. High sky, no white clouds up there, just blue. Try to concentrate on that ball flight. As soon as you can pick it up off the bat, you see him Drop that left shoulder back and just keep eyes on it the entire time. Good swing from Brinson.
There's Chad Wallach and his dad, a part of the staff with the Miami Marlins. He was a good one. Tim Wallach was a 3-time Gold Glover, member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame all those years with the Expos. Chad came over from Cincinnati with Anthony DiSlafini in the Matt Latos deal. Mentioned this the other day. There's a lot of 2-generation families that have played in the major leagues, handful of 3 generations, and 1 4-generation family. That's it, the Boones. There's a ground ball left side. DeYoung up with it and makes the play. A 1-2-3 inning for Michael Wacha. Voit, Garcia, Wisdom coming up. In the offseason, it never, ever stops.
Yeah, that's what spring training's certainly all about.
Jose Oquendo's back, and that's big for the Cardinals.
Yeah, it's so different. You know, you get down here. We were talking about this a little earlier today. You know, the difference between opening day and the beginning part of the season, and you know, even the temperatures. You know, you go way north, and you know it's going to be chilly in St. Louis at some point.
Oh yeah.
When you guys get back home, you know the sky's different here. I mean, everything about the game is so different in spring training. You're actually starting to see teams play more night games because of this. I really do believe, because there's such a disparity between all these day games and what actually the season's going to be like.
Right. There's Luke Voit. Last year his numbers: 4 home runs, St. Louis native. Todd Hollandsworth of Fox Sports Florida alongside. I'm Dan McLaughlin of Fox Sports Midwest. There's a look at the spring numbers for Luke.
That swing really starting to come around. He's been swinging the bat a lot better of late.
And he rips it into center field for a base hit.
Right on cue.
3rd Cardinal hit of the day. Here you guys talk about it all the time, but the hitter's about, first of all, loading up, but making sure in the transition, in the swing, getting the front foot down. And for Luke Voit, that's one of the things that he had to work on in the minor leagues. He has a high leg kick, and now he's really not the high leg kick, but he gets the front leg down.
Right. And it's a great breakdown. You saw it right there in slow motion, and that's really what it comes down to. Is the fact that when you start it, you've got to get it there. What we know about a swing, much like any swing, there's trigger points. There's points to where your hands can start to come forward, but they won't until that front foot hits. So the longer that front foot's in the air, your hands are waiting. They're saying, "Hey, man, I want to go, but I can't go till you get your front foot down." So that's a pretty good example of it right there. You can be slow and delayed like Vogt. He's got that little, it's almost like a smooth transition, but once it gets down, his hands are ready to come through the zone.
This is Adolis Garcia. Opened up some eyes here in spring training, trying to get that final roster spot potentially in the outfield for the Cardinals. It's a high fly ball into center. And the catch is made by Brinson. Voit back to the bag at first. Should mention again, it's a split squad here today. Miles Michaelis for the Cardinals is at the ballpark of the Palm Beaches making that start. Mike Matheny is with him, and so the manager today for the Cardinals is Mike Schilt. Longtime minor league manager, was on the staff last year for Mike Matheny's club. Mike Schilt, one of my all-time favorites. Good guy, longtime baseball man. There's Mike. He's your manager today. Ground ball hit towards short, out at second. The turn, not in time. And also in the latter stages of spring, you're seeing at least the National League, the pitchers trying to get some at-bats in before live bullets, before it gets going.
You see that good slide by Voit. It's in there. I think it affected the throw too much. Marlins still almost able to turn that over. But you're absolutely right. The pitchers have got to get some at-bats as well. It can't just be field 6, The
Cardinals had Adam Wainwright on a backfield facing Alex Reyes.
There you go.
Yesterday.
Well, and it's so important. And we talk about it in the National League, and I was almost a lifer of the National League. My 12-year career, I think if you were to add up all of my years in the National League, it's about 10.5 or more. The importance of what your pitchers can do with the bat. And the good ones realize that these at-bats mean something. You know, I find some element of productivity. Maddox used to say it all the time. I was with Greg Maddox with the Cubs, and he wasn't the greatest of hitters, but he also understood that getting a good bunt down, even if it didn't make the most sense, being productive with the bat in your hand somehow, some way. Not just going up there and being an automatic out.
Sure. I would think at some point the DH will be part of National League Baseball. I hope it doesn't happen, but it seems like all signs are pointing towards
I tend to agree. I think you and I are much farther along in the minority on this one. I've said it for years, but of course, you know, in my career, I spent about the last 5 years as a role player in these and I realize in the National League that's where you want to be. You don't want to be a role player in the American League,
no,
because
no double switches. You're not seeing that.
I didn't make my actual first start. I didn't step on the field my last year in the big leagues. I started out with Cleveland in 2006, and I was filling that exact same role as our fourth outfielder. We played like 9 games before I got on the field. I was like, wait a minute, this is not going to work. The National League, you get the pinch hit, you get the double switch, you get to get some starts in there. So again, there's much more of an opportunity for your role players, your bench players in the National League.
3-2 to Waka. Missed inside, so Alcantara walks the pitcher, and it brings in Colton Wong. You've seen it once, you've seen it a million times where Alcantara or any pitcher knows the pitcher's probably not swinging the bat, and he can't locate the fastball. He just can't get it.
That also speaks to sometimes that high velocity. It can happen. I've seen it enough times in my career. You want to throw a strike, you try to just get it right down the middle of the plate, and the movement kind of takes it out of the zone. You saw that right there.
2 on for Colton Wong, and he looks at a strike. Grounded out to first, his first time up. Alcantara, according to Baseball America, #1 prospect in their system, and others have him as the 3rd best prospect. That's MLB.com had him as #3, Alcantara #1 according to Baseball America, but you get the idea. Highly thought of.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And the way things have gone for him this spring, I mean, again, I don't want to step too far into the future, but he's been impressive. He's going to get, my guess is he's going to get a lot of big league time this year, and he's certainly got an opportunity to be on that opening day roster.
7 of the top 10 prospects acquired in trades this offseason, as Miami was awfully busy.
And they certainly were. Traded some key performers from last year. The outfield, Giancarlo Stanton, Marcell Ozuna, Christian Yelich, D. Gordon.
Here's a 1-1. Good fastball.
A little late tailing action on that pitch.
Acquired 21 players from 8 different trades. And to extend the point even further, 12 of those players that got back are now listed in their top 25 of their prospects.
That tells you 2 things. Number one, where was their minor league system prior to making those trades? Well, most publications had them ranked 30th. You know, maybe 29th in a few spots, but most had them way down. And that was the realization of what this organization had to fix. First and foremost was a broken minor league system. And most publications now have them about middle of the pack right now, 15 or 16. So they were able to kind of jump over about 15 teams. Listen, Marlins fans, you don't want to hear that all the time. You certainly want to see the winning on the field. But if you want to win consistently, this is something you've got to have. You've got to have a minor league system that can help you out at some point during the year.
Payroll last year, opening day, was a franchise record of $154. This year, looking around $90 million or so. Derek Jeter and Bruce Sherman bought the team from Jeffrey Loria. And a lot of times you hear those that are around the Marlins, you would know better than I, but they said, hey, we had this trio of outfielders, didn't win with them, didn't have enough pitching, and we needed to retool with our minor leagues.
Well, it also becomes a conversation about timing. I mean, that's the realization. You know, the people that are arguing this arguing the story, still argue about timing. Okay, well, what if they would have gone out and gotten a couple of top flight starters? Would that make them more relevant? It certainly would have, but it certainly doesn't necessarily win them the division. It bumps their payroll up. You still have the 30th ranked minor league system. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you've got to look at this, but the one thing that I know Derek Jeter and company have in their back pocket and certainly in mind is the timing. They know that they need to redevelop the system. They're going to pair that with some timing in maybe free agency. It may not be now. It probably is not going to be maybe a year or two from now. Yeah, they're going to be more active. They're certainly going to be willing to spend some dollars when the time is right. You've got to have the players show up at the same time as your prospects are peaking and playing at a high level at the major league level. Then you spend some dollars and go out and find some of the answers that maybe you can't come up with through your system.
2 outs, 2 on, the 3-2 pitch. That's taken low. Bases loaded now for Tommy Pham. So Contra back-to-back walks of Michael Wacha, Colton Wong brings in Pham, and you've seen him really slow down here with runners on.
A little bit of traffic on the bases is Alcantara trying to make perfect pitches right now. Certainly wants to stay down in the zone. A couple of times he's been up, he's been made to pay. Zuna with the double, Molina with the home run.
And a strike to Tommy Pham.
That's a pretty good equalizer right there for a first pitch against Pham. When you're throwing 96 to 98 miles an hour, you throw a first pitch curveball. There are not too many hitters that are going to make any kind of attempt at that pitch.
Here's the 0-1. Check swing, and it's 0-2. Boy, you feel cheated as a hitter, don't you?
You watch the at-bats in front of you, a couple of walks, base hit earlier in the inning, and you say, wait a minute, 0-2, why me? What just happened?
0-2 the count on Tommy Pham. Bases loaded. Pitch taken high. Pham, the breakout season a year ago. And he will be the everyday center fielder for the Cardinals. 2020 season a year ago. And the 1-2. A swing and a miss, and Pham strikes out. Cardinals strand the bases loaded. And we're tied 1-1.
Download the app and take Fox Sports Florida and Marlins baseball with you wherever you go.
1-1 our score, top of the third. Along with Todd Hollandsworth, I'm Dan McLaughlin, Todd of Fox Sports Florida. And I've been with Fox Sports Midwest for 20 plus years. Cardinals baseball, a lot of fun. 1-1 our score, top of the third. And for the Marlins, it'll be Miguel Rojas, Sandy Alcantara, and Cameron Maben. You think about the trades the Marlins have made in the offseason, really began with their shortstop last year, too. He could pick it. Young man's a heck of a player.
Well, the Marlins certainly have been an organization of transition over the years. They've tried a different variety of avenues to put a winner on the field. They've not been able to find that consistency. They're going to try once again. New ownership group. Do it through the minor league system.
And the ownership group has reached out to the fans, too. They're trying.
They're doing a lot of things right. There is no doubt about it. I think of my time in Chicago and Theo Epstein and the Chicago group. The one word that was very, very apparent they wanted to use was transparency, as they behaved very similarly early on. They knew that they had to redevelop a minor league system up with the Cubs and certainly put some prospects in the system and make some hard trades early on, and they were willing to do it. And catch a few breaks along the way, like a Jake Arrieta.
That's a pretty good break.
Yeah, that was a pretty good break, right? And it turned into a World Series winner a couple seasons ago.
Jake just signed this past week. 3 years, $75 million with the Phillies, and Lance Lynn, the former Cardinals, signing with Minnesota. Those are really the two big ones I was thinking about in terms of free agents and pitching that are still out there. There's still some really good major league players that are unsigned.
Alex Cobb.
Yeah.
Some guys that can certainly Had a few wins here to your organization, maybe some game changers, if you will.
2-2.
It's been a very interesting offseason as far as free agency goes. Certainly the Players Union has been very, very aware. The players very aware of what's been going on. It's going to be interesting to me, Dan, just because I'm curious to see how it goes into next year. We've heard a lot. See the ground ball to short. Young up with it across the diamond. Yeah, you see these numbers. You know, Carlos Gonzalez going back to the Rockies on a 1-year deal. You know, Lance Lynn, many people pegged him for a 3 or 4 year deal somewhere out there on the open market. You know, Neil Walker, how about this? This was his only offer, was from the Yankees. He didn't have another major league offer from anybody else.
And with some of those guys, deals, you know, they had turned down extensions, multi-year extensions, and now settling for a 1-year deal
because they thought more was out there. And I guess what I'm curious is because we know that next year's free agent class is so talented, so many big names out there: Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, just to name a few. Where it all goes.
Shallow right field, and the catch made by Garcia. That ball off the bat of Alcantara. I just wonder if you're a player and you played a number of years in the big leagues and they say, hey, Todd, you know, you're 29, 30 years old, let's say. We've got a deal on the table for 3 years. We want to keep you. You're a free agent to be. We understand that. I wonder if more players are going to be apt to saying, yep, I'll sign for the 3 years.
Well, it's the game, you know, inside the game. It's the business side of it. You know, do you bet on yourself? I mean, you've got guys, you know, I think it's interesting, you know.
Come on, I want to get into this.
We will. We're going to have to do it next inning.
I want to talk about this. All right, we will when we come back. Molina, Ozuna, and DeYoung coming up. It's 1-1. Today's hottest sports topics, Undisputed with Skip and Shannon, weekdays from 9:30 to noon, and that's only on FS1. Sun-drenched Roger Dean Stadium. 1-1 our scores. We move to the bottom of the third, but we were talking about before the commercial break, the free agent market and where it might go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, if there are more, you know, maybe some deals out there, longer or shorter term, longer than the 1 years, meaning 2-3 year deals, you know, under all circumstances, I think the players are absolutely going to consider them. I mean, that's just it. I mean, I think what the wake-up call this year was, well, wait a minute, there's more money out there in free agency. Clearly there's not. Either that or they're saving their dollars for next year's free agent class. But your point's a valid one. I mean, how could we deny that? A number of guys turned down those deals.
Molina is 2 for 2 with a home run and now a single to center field. There's Marcell Ozuna.
Yadi Molina all over it today. Boy, oh boy, he is seeing the ball well. This is what you want to bottle up and get to opening day, right, yeah. Danny? This is when you're locked in like this, 2 really hard hit balls. There's not a whole lot left to do down here in spring training except bide your time till opening day.
Get the feeling the position players, they're chomping at the bit. They're about ready to say, okay, enough's enough. Let's play this thing for real. Where the pitchers are saying, give me 1, maybe 2 more tune-ups, and then, yeah, I'm ready to go north too.
Right. You know, the hitters, it's for me, it was always about, and I did 15 of these spring trainings where, you know, you're just, you know, sometimes you're working on your time. And in fact, mine here with the Marlins, thank goodness it was 6 weeks because it took me, I felt like I was 3 weeks late. So my first 3 weeks of spring training, now, of course, not getting into the numbers, were not particularly good. And I was having a hard time getting on the fastball, seeing the ball well. But I did get to the 4th week of spring training, which would be about next week's time, and I got into a good groove. 3-4 games in a row, I was barreling up the fastball, and I got to opening day, and I was right where I needed to be. And that's it for the hitters. I mean, the hitters never really.
Ozuna pops it up, shallow right, and the catch is made by Maben, calling off Castro.
Yeah, we always say the same thing. The hitters say the same thing. Spring training's too long. When you're coming from the north, and I remember this, I lived in Chicago for an awful long time, you know, a few other teams along the way, but when you're in the north, you get down to spring training right around mid-February, you want to get down to the weather. It's beautiful, it's warm, let's go play ball.
Right.
And then you realize about halfway through March, you're like, wait, this is way too long.
Yeah.
Why did we come down so early? Do you remember back in the day when guys used to show up to spring training like a day before the mandatory report date?
Well, there's still some that do.
Is there? I haven't even heard of this in years.
There's like 2 guys I can remember in the last 2 years that have done that. But a good example would be the young man at the plate right now, Paul DeYoung. So he's a guy that can play third base, second base, shortstop, penciled in to be the everyday shortstop. Well, Jose Oquendo lives down here. He wanted to get extra work, so DeYoung has been here basically since January.
Oh,
you know, and a lot of the players are doing that now.
Right. Well, that's what I was getting at, is that, you know, today's players, certainly the effort is fantastic. These guys are, you know, pegged. It's a 365-day job. It really is what it's become, where it was different. I remember when I was playing, there was always a handful of guys that would, and we always thought it was like weird. Boy, he's showing up like 5 minutes before the mandatory report date. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like that actually happened. And you know, it was back in the day. You don't see too much of it anymore.
DeYoung pulls it foul. Nothing in two the count with a runner at first. 1-1 our score. Derek Dietrich, a solo home run in the first for the Marlins. Yadier Molina answered with a home run in the bottom half of the first. And the 0-2. Got him. It's nasty.
It certainly is. And you always get a little ants here with 2 strikes. You see that right there. Good late movement down in the zone off the outside corner. Hard to lay off for DeYoung.
There's Luke Voigt. With a base hit his first time up. He's played a little left field, trying to expand his resume. Play first base and was a former college catcher.
You try to create value for yourself any way you can for Mike Matheny and company. Play multiple positions. Certainly love to keep his bat. My understanding is that he's kind of one of the guys that's kind of maybe right there on that line, right?
Absolutely. Talked about he used to have that high leg kick. Now he just picks it up, puts it down, and tries to explode into the baseball. He's put together. Big guy, can hit for power. Played at Missouri State, went to Lafayette High School in St. Louis.
I got a pretty good look at him last year. I believe he was just showing up to the scene when the Marlins were coming into town, and he got the Marlins a couple times. We were pretty impressed.
Popped up right side. Bohr is over and can't come up with it.
If I remember correctly, and I would be really good if I remembered this right, but I think he hit a home run into Big Mac land when we were there.
He did. It was his first big league home run.
Right. So there you go. I was in town to see it.
Yeah. Well, you don't forget ones that go up there.
Right.
Usually.
You certainly do not. But we were, you know, quite curious with this young man, and certainly saw his swing and his approach to the plate, which, you know, you have a few hitters in the game today that are starting to kind of, you know, do this abbreviated, you know, kind of glide into the ball.
A strikeout of Voigt. So back-to-back strikeouts. He didn't like the call. We played 3 and we're tied. It's 1-1.
Coverage begins at 1:30 on Fox Sports Florida and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. It is a puck.
A puck at a baseball park. I like it. Michael Wacha finishing up his warm-up tosses. 1-1 our score. Todd Hollinsworth alongside Dan McLaughlin. We're a split feed, if you will. Split broadcasters. Split audience. But it's still baseball.
That's right. Lots of smiles. Nobody argues with baseball in March.
Where do you guys open up this year?
At home against the Chicago Cubs. 4-game set right out of the gate. In fact, I believe the Marlins are going to throw the first pitch of the 2018 season.
I'm assuming why I think it's been announced. Joe Madden is going with John Lester as his opening day starter.
Jose Urena will get the start for the Marlins.
Could be a very good Central Division this year. Cardinals should be in the middle of it, along with Milwaukee with their additions. Lorenzo Cain, Christian Yelich. Pitching will be, I think, the big storyline with them. That's lined into right, and Garcia, a diving catch in right field.
Garcia does a nice job. Another well-struck ball off the bat of Derek Dietrich. See it again there. They keep throwing him in. He keeps putting good wood on it. Some hang time there, able to get over, but as you see, that ball starts to sink on him, able to stay underneath it with the glove. Nice job by Garcia. Good swing of the bat by Dietrich. And you always say that in spring training. You know, you tell yourself you don't really worry about the results too much, and you know, Derek's swinging the bat real well. Hey, man, it's all good. Nice line out. Like during the season, like you do that, like you want to break the bat rack. You don't want anybody stealing your hits. It's the way it works. I never got mad at myself with bat at bats. I figured I was bad, so I wasn't going to get a hit anyway.
There's a base hit to left off the bat of Starlin Castro.
Yeah, he would have been my key performer coming into today.
So Castro is 2 for 2, and it brings in Justin Board. You mentioned those numbers that Starlin has had.
That don't matter, right?
Michael Wacha. That carries over here to spring. Cubs should be very good. Cardinals, Milwaukee. I look at the East, and I think the Marlins clearly in a rebuild, but Washington would be the team to beat. And my pick to surprise a lot of folks, if they can stay healthy, that's a big if. I think the Mets with that rotation, if Harvey can get back to where he was, it's pretty good that you can roll out there those three, Syndergaard, DeGrom, Harvey. They've added some veterans. It's pretty good.
I don't think anybody's going to argue that, but health is going to be the big question with them. They have not had the best of springs. Of course, as I said, I'm not going to get into spring training records, but you know, they've had some struggles there.
Cardinals see them opening day at Citi Field. First-year manager Mickey Callaway. Big additions with those veterans that they've added.
Well, I would certainly, even as a non-betting man, bet that they're going to improve upon those 70 wins. I think last year was just such a surprise to most around baseball. 70 and 92 is just, with the talent that they had on the roster, with the staff, the injuries, that really didn't make a whole lot of sense for anybody.
And for Cardinal fans, that game with first pitch will be at noon St. Louis time, and an hour-long pregame show at 11. As Boer pops it foul and out of play. Carlos Martinez be the opening day starter for the Cardinals.
No surprise there.
Nope. After that, anybody's guess at this point, but you can kind of look at how the rotation is rolling over here and make your best guess. Here's a 1-2 pitch with the shift on against Boer. Wong backhands and threw it away. Diving stop by Wisdom to keep it on the infield. Really one of those in-between plays for Wong. Do you underhand it or do you fire it?
Right. Well, you go back to the first inning. It was almost an identical ground ball up the middle with the shift on right here. He was able to turn the double play there. This one, tremendous momentum going to the backhand up the middle, and you're right. I don't know if he can flip it. It's still probably too far away, but unable to gather himself and make a good throw to second base. You see him kind of going through the motions a little bit right there. You know, infielders are so challenged in today's game because so many guys are moved around the infield to throw, and you see them out practicing it. I see it on the Marlins side. Perry Hill Bone with the Marlins working on this all the time. The guys out there working on the different arm angles and the different throws that middle infielders have to make because they're now in different positions consistently.
This could be two. DeYoung from his knees, the turn by Wong, double play. Second double play turned by the Cardinals. Paul DeYoung, Colton Wong, Luke Voigt, 1-1 midway through 4. St. Louis Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you in part by Hyundai. A better SUV is waiting for you at your local St. Louis Hyundai dealer. And by Siteman Cancer Center. National leaders in cancer, close to home. It's a gorgeous day here at Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium in Jupiter, Florida. 1-1 our score, bottom of the fourth. Along with Todd Hollinsworth, I'm Dan McLaughlin. And the batter will be Adolis Garcia, followed by Patrick Wisdom and Michael Wacha. The starters now starting to get stretched out. This point in spring, you'll see 5, maybe 6 innings. Garcia flied to center first time up. Gets a breaking ball and fouls it back. Jairo Munoz below Garcia, Luke Voigt, Randy Arozarena, Harrison Bader, all vying for that third or fourth outfield spot. Jairo Munoz has had a very good camp. He came over in the Steven Piscotty deal with Oakland, but a couple of home runs, 7 RBI, 2 doubles, and has played the outfield and the infield. His versatility may find its way on the roster for the Cardinals. Garcia could play all 3 outfield spots. And one thing is for certain, the Memphis Redbirds, the AAA affiliate, they're going to have a very good outfield. Last year they won the PCL championship and they used 62 different players.
Wow. That's
62.
a big number.
Yeah.
That's also a good sign for the organization. You've got to be happy with that.
2-2 is popped up. That'll be a souvenir just below us to our right.
I talk about it an awful lot, especially in regards to the Marlins. Marlins searching for that. Clearly the Cardinals have a lot more of it right now, which is internal competition. Dan, when you've got a team, you've got a system where players are competing against each other for major league roster spots, it keeps that edge going. You talk about going back down to AAA. You've got a situation where multiple outfielders are doing their best to put up their numbers. Even in AAA, they want to be the first man called up when somebody goes down.
And Garcia strikes out. And all of a sudden, Alcantara struck out the last 3 that he's seen. Brings in Patrick Wisdom, who flied to center first time up. Wisdom, a part of that PCL championship team. He had 31 home runs a year ago. He's played a lot of first base, natural third baseman, but a lot of first here in camp. Chad Blair is the video coach of the St. Louis Cardinals. He's been around Cardinals a long time. Came with Tony La Russa and Dave Duncan. He's still with us. And he loves it when I talk about the new rules. And in particular, Chad loves when I bring up the mound visits.
Right.
Which is something new to the game.
It's going to be curious. I mean, certainly some culprits out there. I'm not saying Yadi Molina necessarily is that, or JT Realmuto, but there you go. You see the new rule, mound visits rule, 6 per team per 9 innings. And some guys, I think of Wilson Contreras of the Chicago Cubs. I had him a few seasons ago when he first got man, oh man, it was about every other pitch he was out there whispering something in the pitcher's ear, and like, this is all going to add up.
It's a mound visit.
Yeah, it's all part of, changing the tempo and the pace of the game. And everybody complains about it, I guess, unless you're a Cub, because you want to get it right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And the pitcher.
So, right, and the pitcher, who I certainly have understood that communication all along. Sometimes it's important, sometimes it's not, but clearly Major League Baseball trying to get that, reel that back in.
I don't know if you feel this way, but if you went to anybody in this ballpark right now and said, do you think the game's too slow? They'd say, well, no, I'm enjoying my hot dog and my popcorn and my kids and sunshine. And I guess where you have to be careful with it is the television aspect of it. You want it to move. You want to have a flow to it. And let's face it, TV is driving the bus.
Well, and there's no doubt about that. And I don't think that the argument necessarily is innings 0 through 6. I think that this conversation really starts in about the 7th inning for just about everybody. I mean, whether we're sitting here talking about the game of baseball and how it's progressing time-wise or how it's not progressing time-wise, most of our conversations get into how are bullpens being used and why is it taking so long from innings 7 through 9? Why is that taking us an hour and 15 minutes?
Had a long conversation. I was on the other side of the state yesterday, and visiting at Red Sox camp with Hall of Famer Tony La Russa. And when Tony stopped managing, he worked for Major League Baseball, was part of the rules committee, and then worked with Arizona and now with Boston. And we were talking about exactly that point, innings 7, 8, and 9. And yes, it takes a long time to finish those. And he said, that's not good for the sport. You know, we need to speed it up. And I said, Tony, this is you, the king of lefty,
right,
and
right,
making moves.
Right.
And he said, hey,
ahead of this.
He said, you know what, if that's what the sport wants and the rules changes, he said, I would have been fine with it. He said, I played within the rules. I managed within the rules. But he said, the game needs to, and he's talked to Rob Manfred a lot about it. He said the game does need to improve in pace of play with the best part of the game, which is the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And if you look at how the game is played now, you know, there's so many tight games. There's a lot of tight games. So the drama in those later innings can be a lot better with a flow to them. And,
absolutely.
And I do agree with that point.
Well, we don't see. You and I were talking a little bit about this. You know, do we see nearly as many rallies? I remember, you know, obviously throughout my career, you know, if you could expose the back end of a bullpen or get to a guy, sometimes it would lead to, you know, the ability to really put it on him late. But the way that, you know, these games, managers are managing the bullpens now, if there's any sense that a guy doesn't have it, boy, they'll go out and get him right away.
Sure.
Like where that just didn't happen before. It was like, you know, we brought this guy in to get a few outs. We need to get him through it. Now it doesn't. You know, you got a lefty-righty up as soon as you're bringing a guy into a game. Nice job right there by Waka as he gets that bunt out. Talking about productive at-bats for pitchers, that was one right there.
And it brings in Colton Wong now with 2 outs, a tie game, 1-1 here in the bottom of the 4th. Wong is grounded out to first and also walked.
Contra has looked very, very good today. He's had some trouble, you know, a couple instances where he's had to get himself out of trouble, I should say, and he has done a fantastic job of doing that. He's made some really big pitches.
And Wong looks at a pitch in the dirt.
And you love to see it for Don Mattingly. You know, you'd love to see your young gun go out there every time, give you 5 innings with no trouble at all. But the reality is you actually want them to get in a little bit of trouble. Of course, it's clearly going to be self-induced, you know, but you want to see them work with a runner on second and 2 outs. Can he make a big pitch to Colton Wong right here and get himself out of this in a 1-1 ball game?
Here's a 1-0. Little chopper towards second. Gloved. And Wong grounds out. We head to inning number 5. Brinson, Wallach, and Rojas coming up. Defense and shifts, and it can make for some tough plays.
Well, it certainly can. And again, for Colton Wong, incredible athlete, great range to his right there. And you know, you and I were talking about like where you actually field that ball. He had to make that throw on the run, not a good one. Inaccurate throw right there. You see for DeYoung, able to go down to both knees, make a strong throw, had more time. That ball hit very, very hard. You see even the runner peeling off right there as they turn the double play. So, you know, I think the challenge for so many middle infielders in today's game is much higher than it was back in the day where you played your position, maybe a step to the left, step to the right. But I think from Colton Wong, we got a pretty good example. How many times has he fielded that ball in that spot right there where his feet were under control, just a nice, easy flip to your second baseman? In this instance, because he was playing the overshift, he's sprinting to the backhand and having to make a, well, somewhat of a desperate throw to second base.
I'm sure you've seen it a bunch, but infielders now, in particular, second basemen don't take the traditional ground ball infield. So you know, where he's positioned now is more towards the middle as Brinson looks at a ball outside. But I've seen a number of times Colton Wong and other second basemen, they're taking ground balls in shallow right field to get a feel of the grass. How's the ball going to react off the dirt to the grass, those kind of things. As Brinson lines it right over Wisdom and down into the corner. Young man that wears number 9 is, he got that number, picked that number because his favorite player, Juan Pierre. Yep.
My good friends. Beautiful swing right there. 2 hard hit balls in today's ball game. Tommy Pham got him early. Nice catch out in center field at the warning track. This ripped into the left field corner. Good quick hands right there for Brinson. He continues his hot hitting and continues to impress Don Mattingly and the staff. They are thrilled with how he's handled himself in his first Marlins camp.
Mentioned earlier that Chad Wallach, his dad Tim, longtime major leaguer. Well, at one point he was with the Dodgers, and Todd Hollinsworth at one point was with the Dodgers, and young Chad, who's at the plate, was just a little guy back then.
Oh, he was about yay big. That's right. I think he was about 6 or 7 years old at the time. It was like Tim Wallach, the bench coach for the Marlins. He was kind of like my surrogate father. I mean, Tommy Lasorda put him in position to kind of raise me. They strategically put me next to him. They said, you listen to Tim Wallach, do as he tells you, and just be quiet. Speak when spoken to. I mean, those are like the rules in our clubhouse at the time. And I suppose a little old school. We're talking mid-'90s here, but things were kind of like that way. Rookies didn't say a whole lot back then, and that's who I learned from. I learned from Tim Wallach, and to watch this young man walk into the clubhouse, a few different times throughout the year. He was, like I said, loved baseball.
The high fly ball into center. Tommy Pham gets himself in a position to throw. Brenson not tagging up. A strike to third. Budweiser brings you what's on tap. Cardinals and Braves tomorrow will be in Orlando as Luke Weaver will make that start. And the next televised game for the Marlins on Fox Sports Florida will be this weekend on Sunday. And you'll be in Tampa, huh? Marlins and Yankees. 1-1 our score. One out in the top of 5. This is Miguel Rojas. Rojas first time up, grounded out to short.
Really nice offensive season last year from Rojas, particularly out of the 8th spot in the lineup. I'm sure he's going to get some opportunities at the top of the lineup this year, maybe the 2-hole at different times for Don Mattingly this year. Last year was so good. Don Mattingly at times really didn't want to give him, even when he got really, really hot. It wasn't like move him up to the top. He wanted to leave him in that 8th spot. You realize it's one of the toughest spots in the National League to hit in.
And a fly ball lifted down the right field line, foul. We were talking about, even though it's spring, you're working on things, but you also want to see, especially in the latter stages of spring, productive at-bats. And for Chad Wallach, flying out to center, doesn't advance a runner from second base, little things like that.
Well, they certainly stand out, right, in games like this. That's what Don Mattingly wants to see. I mentioned it early on in today's broadcast, how the Marlins offense is going to be different this year. I mean, they've lost 100-plus home runs out, 300-plus RBIs out of the outfield this year. They're going to have to run the bases really well. They're going to have to be good hitters. They're going to have to build those innings, which we talk about all the time, are sometimes hard to do in today's game, stringing hits together. Last year they had a lot of answers in that. You had a home run threat coming up every hitter or every other hitter. Even down at the bottom of the lineup, you had some power hitters.
Quick pickoff by Waka. Waka has a very good move. You always hear about the lefties with good moves. Waka, quick feet, even though he's a big man, tall, good athlete, quick move.
Let's take a quick look. You watch those quick feet right there, that little jump off. Brinson back just in time.
Here's a 1-1. 1-2.
I'm sure that move will get a man or two this season. It was a pretty quick move, quick feet, as you said. And for Rojas, he did a fantastic job. I mentioned hitting out of the 8th spot in this lineup. 292 out of the 8th spot. That's not easy to do in the National League where you got the pitcher behind you or that spot behind you quite often. Sometimes it's, you're messing around, especially this time of the ball game, 5th, 6th, 7th inning, whether the pitcher's going to hit or a pinch hitter's going to come up. A lot of times this 8th spot becomes a tough read for a hitter.
Here's a 1-2. Curveball lifted into center field. That's a base hit. Brenson being waved in. The throw by Pham to the plate, and they got him. Brenson was hesitant going around third base. I don't think he thought he was going to be waved in.
And that's some anticipation on Brenson's part. Young man's mistake right there. Good piece of hitting, but that's just like we're talking about. Alcantara in the box coming up. Freddie Gonzalez wants to get a run right here. Brinson hit third base, more like he was going to go to third. It was a hard hit ball, but Freddie wants that run. He's got to anticipate that, so that's a young man's mistake right there. He certainly want to tighten that up before you get to the regular season. Rule of thumb is that you're going to score on every base hit until your third base coach stops you. That's how you want to approach the bag at third. You do not want to coast in and assume anything.
That's a great point. No one warming up for the Marlins. You know Alcantara's going to hit. You're going to send him.
Well, in that situation during the season, you're always thinking that way. You don't know if the center fielder falls down. You don't know if he bobbles the ball. The third base coach wants to know that you're going to come at him 100 miles an hour until he stops you. So for anybody, any young man out there that plays the game, you're moving in that situation. As soon as you know you're going and that ball is down, you're going to go at it 100 miles an hour until you get stopped by your third base coach.
Now 0-2 on Alcantara. So 13 defensive runs saved last year for Tommy Pham. And he struck him out. So Waka gets out of the jam with a little help from Tommy Pham and a strike to the plate. The Gold Glover with the tag. We're tied 1-1. Fans 16 and older receive a lightweight quarter zip pullover courtesy of Maryville University. Kids 15 and under receive a voucher for a future game. That's courtesy of Ritz. And all you have to do is visit cardinals.com/promotions to get that pullover. Cardinals.com/promotions. Bottom of 5, and it's 1-1. Brinson, little hesitant around third base, cost the Marlins a run. And it's a 1-1 game.
Yeah, that's the great thing about spring training is that there are do-overs. You learn some tough lessons, but you love to learn them in spring training, not during the regular season. I'd be willing to bet that you won't see that happening again. That's where you got to do it. I made plenty of mistakes myself in spring training games. I made plenty of mistakes in big league ball games that had to be corrected along the way, but that's the path of a young man. You got to learn.
And I'll say this, the positive, I'm going to put a positive spin on it, is that he was hesitant around third base and yet still made it very close.
He made up the distance, right? Well, we were watching it as it was developing, and he kind of was downshifting around third, and he kicked it right back up to full speed. Still made it a close play at home.
Young man can run.
Yes, he can.
Here's Tommy Pham. He's flied to right and struck out. 0-2. Here it is. Right about there, and then he picked it back up.
That little hesitation right there. And when you saw, I mean, this is big league baseball. How many times have we seen it? That one little step that just cost you. And you see it right there. That little hesitation around third base probably was the difference between safe and out at home.
Here's a 1-2. Taking a bit high, 2-2.
See the pitches thrown by Alcantara, now 71. He has been efficient.
2-2 in the gap in right center. Brinson won't get it. All the way to the wall, and Tommy Pham is on his way to third. The relay not in time as the ball scoots away. Alcantara backing up. Leadoff triple, Tommy Pham.
Well, Pham has seen Alcantara at his best today. He's made some tough pitches to Pham, and this one right here, another fastball away. He's on it. Good approach by Pham as he stays through it and drives it into right center field. About halfway between first and second, you can sense that next gear coming as he reaches back, gets himself all the way to third base. A little highlight reel here over the last 5 or 10 minutes from Tommy Pham on defense and now the offensive side of things. Two-way player.
Marlins elect to play the infield back with Molina up. He's 2 for 2 with a home run and a base hit to center. Seen it so many times over the years. First pitch swinging by Yadier Molina, always aggressive early in counts.
Well, I think of Yadi and his career, and these situations, I think of line drive to right. Isn't that how many times we've seen him stay inside the baseball and really use that off field to produce runs?
Nearly 40% swing rate first pitch in his career. Very aggressive early. It's also, in my mind, he's a great guess hitter, too. Yep. I mean, he just understands what the pitcher's trying to do.
He should, shouldn't he?
Yes, he should.
That's right.
Drills that. Deep left. It is off the top of the wall. Pham will score. Yadi is 3 for 3. And the Cardinals have a 2-1 lead. Inches away from his second home run.
Well, it's been an impressive afternoon for Yadier Molina. My goodness, he has pulled the hands in, as you see right there. Just misses a home run by inches. Again, a rocket off the barrel. Right off the top of the wall.
Couldn't believe it. He thought that was gone.
As he should. That's going to be it for Alcantara this afternoon. 75 pitches. An outstanding effort for him today. Got himself in a couple of jams, got himself out of it, made some pitches in some big spots, but he continues to take great strides moving forward.
We'll step aside and tell you about the change when we come back. Your runner at second base. Lefty O'Grady is in for Miami.
Grady did a pretty nice job for the Marlins last year. A little change of pace. Does not throw particularly hard for a lefty. See his numbers from last season. Got some starts. Worked out of the bullpen late in the season. Good cutter.
0-2 on Marcell Ozuna. Doubled inside the third base line back in the first and also flied out to right. And the 0-2. So Alcantara, you would have to feel from the Marlins perspective, he's in the rotation. Urena is the opening day starter, as you mentioned. Who else is in that conversation?
Now Dan Straley. Jeurysomir Despaigne, I would, he's had a very, very nice spring training. I certainly don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I mean, there's been some guys who have had some very nice camps.
Little flare that's popped up off the bat of Ozuna, who slams his bat down, and the catch is made for the first out.
O'Grady does what O'Grady does, able to get in on the hands. As a hitter, sometimes you say to yourself, he's not throwing particularly hard, but that's the effectiveness of his cutter. That cutter acts like that hard slider, and you see it get in on Ozuna's hands right there.
The batter is Paul DeYoung. No activity in the Cardinal bullpen. Grady took over for Alcantara. And DeYoung looks at a called first strike.
The Marlins currently have 45 players in camp. 32 of those members of the 40-man roster. Now, they did make some moves today. Optioned Adam Connolly, Dylan Peters, and Harlan Garcia. Trio of lefties.
One ball, one strike.
So you kind of asking about the configuration of the rotation. That should probably lead you into, of course, all three, I think, are certainly going to get some big league time, barring injury this year. Probably significant big league time, but I think in mentioning all three, Adam Conley, Dylan Peters, and Harlan Garcia, all in a different spot as far as their progression and their readiness for this upcoming season. They may not be ready, obviously, for opening day, but at some point are going to be counted upon.
2 balls and 1 strike. Two and two. Give fans an idea what it's like to be around Donnie baseball day in and day out.
I love being around Don Mattingly. He's done a fantastic job. My year plus now with him to watch this group. It's a very veteran coaching staff, and it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic this year where you go from so many more. Again, not an old Marlins team last year, but you know, some proven hitters and a proven lineup and
No
some
doubt.
veterans up and down, you know, both in the starting rotation, in the bullpen, and in the starting lineup. Now he's got the young guys, so he's certainly more than capable of helping raise these young men.
The 2-2. DeYoung pulls it fair off the umpire. And runners at first and third. Boy, that's the last thing an umpire ever wants to have happen to them, outside of making a blown call.
DeYoung, a little out in front of this.
Are you kidding me?
It's an RBI you lost. You know,
yeah.
You don't want to lose RBIs anywhere. Certainly it's spring training, but you're right. In that situation, the Marlins benefit. Yadier Molina only able to get over to third base right there.
And also now the double play is in order.
Correct. Grady more than capable of getting that ground ball.
Here's Voit, who is 1 for 2 today. And a high fly ball lifted out to deep right field. Catch made by Maben. Molina will score. And the Cardinals add to their lead thanks to Luke Voit. 3-1 St. Louis.
A good approach from Voit early in the count. Get to that cutter. You might see that in on your hands. More likely to hit that on the ground. He thought about lifting, elevating a fly ball to right. You saw it in his approach. Able to get the job done.
Adolis Garcia for 2. Fly to center and struck out. Wilfredo Tovar is the new runner. As he pinch runs for Paul DeYoung. With staff of Don Mattingly, you got Tim Wallach, Perry Hill, Freddie Gonzalez, Juan Nieves. A lot of guys with a lot of major league service.
A lot of major league success as well. Success at the higher levels. Not only as managers, you've got some ex-managers there. I say it all the time. Bone, he's one of the best infield coaches. I think you've got the 2 on the field right now. And Kendo and Perry Hill, my goodness. You're going to learn something about the middle infield. 2 of the best in the business right there. And as you mentioned, Don Mattingly and his staff, very, very talented. So this young Marlins team certainly has plenty of knowledge to gain from the experience of this coaching staff.
Here's a 1-2 pitch to Garcia. Runner goes, that's Tovar, and it's swung on and missed. So the strikeout of Garcia. Cardinals, though, have a couple of runs in this inning, and they have the lead. It's 3-1. Cardinals, Randy Arozarena takes over for Ozuna in left. Lane Thomas is in center. That's Edward Mujica, the former Marlin and an all-star with the Cardinals as a closer. He signed as with a minor league deal for the Cardinals, just to have a chance to potentially get back in the big leagues. That was a deal that worked out very well for St. Louis. Zach Cox was a high draft choice third baseman out of Arkansas for the Cardinals, and they gave him up to get Mujica. And Mujica, because of issues in the back end of the bullpen, became the closer, and a really good one. Breivik Valera is the new second baseman. Wilfredo Tovar, after pinch running, stays in at short. And this is Cameron Maben at the plate. Molina still catching. Walker's still on the mound. You talked about it earlier. Walker's really gone to that curveball a little bit more here today than we might see in regular action.
Well, it's typically that time of spring training where you watch a starter really use those secondary pitches a little bit more. You want to have that polish, that good feel as you enter the season. And, we've watched hitters, and again, so many of these spring training games where you just watch hitters, swing early in the count, and they jump on that first good fastball that you see as Walker picks up his third strikeout right there. Still sitting at 63 pitches. That's pretty efficient. But again, wanting to incorporate, those secondary pitches as this game goes on. See Dietrich right there, as I mentioned, jumping on the first good fastball he sees. Got all over it right there, didn't he?
The second time up, he lined out to right. It's a diving catch by Adolis Garcia to rob him of an extra base hit. So 1 for 2. As he is the lone run for the Marlins with that solo shot.
Dietrich has really been swinging the bat well of late.
Walker gets him out in front. Popped up on the infield. And Valera the catch. So 2 outs, and the batter will be Starlin Castro.
Now, Danny, let me take a moment real quick and just kind of let everybody down at FIU know that we're thinking about him right now. Obviously, the tragic accident that happened down in South Florida, FIU, the pedestrian bridge that fell. Obviously, just another horrible scene for South Florida over the last few weeks as we continue to deal with that situation. We're thinking about the people and praying for those people down at FIU.
Well, the Marlins have been very active with the shooting that took place a couple of weeks ago, and I mean active in terms of trying to reach out to the families and the kids. The fly ball lifted to center, and Lane Thomas with a catch. Quick inning for Michael Wacha. We're midway through 6, and the Cardinals have a 3-1 lead. Coming season, so if you're looking for ways to save some cash or find a great value at the ballpark, make sure to check out the Fan Value Corner at cardinals.com/values. And while we have a moment, also want to tell you that there are opening day seats that are still available. Opening day against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Fan-friendly values. Along with Todd Hollinsworth, I'm Dan McLaughlin. 3-1 is our score in the bottom of the 6th. And guy has been around a long time, sidewinder, pitched at Missouri State, Brad Ziegler.
Now, Brad had some highs and lows last year, no doubt about it. Came out of the gates, was pitching great. A little bump in the road. On the disabled list for a period of time, came back, in fact, became the closer, did a fantastic job, and going to get that opportunity again this year to be their closer once again. I really like it. Everybody says, well, why not, maybe Bear Claw or Steckenrider, one of your flamethrowers. I love the fact that you've got a sidewinder, kind of hanging out in that 77 to 82 mile an hour range after the flamethrowers come in that 7th or 8th inning. So it's going to give you a little different perspective. So hopefully some opportunity for him to save some games this year. I'd love to see him save about 40 games this year. If that, I'm messing with you, man. Come on.
I'm just listening to you. I'm taking it all in.
That's right. Well, you see it right there.
Swing and a miss by Patrick Wisdom.
Well, we talk about it all the time, that change of speeds, and Ziegler is the master of taking away, not giving, velocity. Let's take a quick look here from the side. See that arm angle can be deceptive. You get in the box thinking, he's throwing 80 miles an hour. I should be able to handle that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to kind of gear down to a guy.
Well, I think your point is really valid. I mean, in today's day and age of baseball, with as hard as guys are throwing, this is different.
Right.
This is deception.
Absolutely. When you're used to facing 95, 96, and I think that's what really impresses me with this generation of players is that I watch them get into the box and turn around 95, 96, 97 miles an hour like it's nothing. They've trained their swings, that front foot, as we were talking about a little bit earlier in the broadcast, to be on time, that when you can take away like Brad Ziegler does with movement, chance to do some things.
3-0 the count on J.B. Woodman. He was picked up from the Toronto Blue Jays, the Ledmus Diaz deal. All right, check that. Apparently it's not J.B. Woodman. It's Terry Fuller. They're both wearing 95.
I've seen that before.
Yeah.
You know, when you get into the 90s, they duplicate.
Yeah,
apparently.
You can't go triple digits on those guys.
That's right.
Because of the split squad, a number of the minor league guys are here in Major League camp. And Fuller lifts a fly ball down the left field line. 3-2 the count.
And to validate this, we used to mess around when we were, when we would get these numbers. I did the 95 thing when I was backing up Darryl Strawberry back in the Dodger days. What we would do is sometimes you'd run across the guys that would get the double numbers, as we would call them.
Yeah.
You just put 95.1, and then 95.2 would be the other guy. And we would just do it in athletic tape on the back of the uniform.
That's the way to do it.
Right.
Fuller is a interesting story. He's a big kid. I've been looking forward to seeing him at some point get into camp. But you see him, he's 6'5", 255 pounds. 15th round selection back in 17. He was a standout defensive lineman in high school. He actually received a scholarship offer from Alabama, verbally committed to Auburn, but the Cardinals were able to get him. Last year in the Gulf Coast League, he had 37 games, hit 161. But the Cardinals think that there is a future for that young man. Here's Breivik Valera.
You did say defensive lineman.
Defense, that's
My
right.
Goodness. Tremendous athlete. You can see that already just looking at his physique over there at first base. Put together a pretty solid at bat against Brad Ziegler.
It's a pretty good tight end from Auburn that made a living in baseball by the name of Frank Thomas.
Yeah.
All the way to the Hall of Fame. Here's the 0-1 pitch to Valera. Puts it in play. Yeah, I'd get out of his way, too. The second baseman avoiding.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Starlin saw the path, which was out and around. Watch this.
Goodbye.
That's exactly how you want to do it right there. Certainly didn't want to play into any kind of contact there at second base. Nice job by Castro. Second out here in the sixth.
You know, the Cardinals had Fernando Vina for a number of years. Outstanding defensive player, really good player overall. But I just, anytime I see that ground ball second base, I think Albert Bell, Fernando Vina.
Yeah.
When Vina was with Milwaukee, and Albert Bell, I mean, lit him up.
He did. I remember it. And you just don't see that play ever.
No.
That kind of collision. And when we all saw it, we were all like, our jaws hit the floor.
Right. What's going on here?
We thought it was personal. We all thought it, like, initially, that's where that's coming from. That's clearly a guy who's, eyeballing somebody. I'm taking him out.
Yeah.
And, it's.
Quick hands.
That's right. There you go.
1 ball, 1 strike on Lane Thomas. Back to Ziegler. And he makes the play. Threw that overhanded, but yet he sidewinds to the plate. 3-1 our score. Forget about the theme nights. There's something for everybody. And those theme tickets are on sale now at cardinals.com/theme. We're in the top of the 7th, and it's 3-1. Michael Wacha, very good for the Cardinals. His start, he exits after 6 innings. Alcantara, pretty sharp for the Marlins, too, on the Miami side. And now it's Tyler Lyons, who will play a big role, you would have to figure, for the Cardinals this year. Late innings, lefty-lefty matchups, whatever the case. Struck out the side his last time out. Had 50 appearances after recovering from surgery a season ago, an ERA that's under 3. And any time that you have an ERA in this day and age under 3, you're doing things right.
Now, certainly, you see the good numbers, good strikeout numbers. Only gave up the 3 home runs as well. I saw him loosening up with a good 2-seam fastball, good tailing action on it. Certainly would explain those numbers.
And a big old breaking ball. This would be a good test for Bohr. 0 for 2, grounded into a double play, and also reached on an air by Colton Wong. Shift on here for Bohr. 1 ball and 1 strike. Always found it interesting when and why you shift. So, you know, you've got a lefty-lefty matchup here. Obviously, the numbers are going to tell you that Bohr pulls the ball.
Yes.
However, with a lefty, you would think his approach is to maybe middle, outer half, take it the other way.
Well, you would think that, but again, you know, you're trusting what you believe your pitcher can execute and what you believe the hitter will actually do. What they're saying right now is that Justin Bohr, more than likely, if he gets that slider, as you mentioned, is going to get out in front of it and around it and pull it to the right side. They're betting that he's not going to stay on it, because if in fact he did, we talk about this all the time, hitters showed the willingness and the ability to hit against the shifts stop. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's been a handful of players in the game that have really worked against this. I've seen it a number of times. In fact, I remember with the Cubs, Anthony Rizzo used to do this all the time. You know, drop a bunt down that way, he'll go that way. Good take right there by Justin Bohr. And what it forces you to do is stop shifting on him if he's willing to do that, particularly at the top end of an inning. You know, 3-1 ball game right here. Justin Bohr's trying to get on. You know, he bunts to that left side or puts a base hit to the left side. They're in business.
2 borderline pitches not going Lions' way, so a leadoff walk. That'll be it for Bohr, and a pinch runner coming on.
Good at bat from Justin Bohr. Took a couple of tough pitches. Had he gone after those sliders on the outside part of the plate, probably would have pulled them to the right side, as you mentioned, that shift right there, but he was able to lay off them.
So leadoff walk, and the tying run comes to the plate. And pitch down and in.
You're really getting at the bat control of the hitters when you talk about the shifting. And it always takes me back to, like, what would a shift against Tony Gwynn look like? Of course, there would have been no shift. He had the best hands in the industry, in the business, one of the best hitters I'd ever been around. And, you know, whatever you were going to do, because he was so good with his hands, he could counter that. If you're going to play him on the right side, of course he's going to go through the 5-5 hole, you know. If you're going to play him on the 5-5 hole, he'll pull it. But you don't see hitters in his type in today's game anymore.
Mm-mm. And that's a base hit into right field. Campbell will stop at second base, and the first 2 have reached. We were talking before the game. You have a couple of young boys that are good baseball players. That, you know, you work with them. I'm curious, especially down here where baseball is prevalent, it's year-round, and we hear so much about launch angle. Is baseball at a youth age being taught differently in how to swing the bat?
Oh, it's definitely being taught differently in certain spots. Now, you know, with my guys, all I tell them is I want you to hit the ball hard. That's all we care about. Find the barrel. I don't care if it's there. I'm showing up high, down low. That's all we're trying to do. We're not worried about bat angle or bat launch. I'm not teaching my kids to uppercut or do anything like that. I just want them to hit the ball hard every time up. If they line out 3 times, you've done your job. That's what we're looking for.
Here's Lewis Brinson.
You start to figure that stuff out as you get a little bit older, and you can add and subtract to that. And in fact, if you talk to most of these major league hitters, and I know it's a bigger deal in a different group that we would be talking to about launch angle, these guys are doing the same thing.
That's what I've been saying too. Now, some guys will say, I'm trying to get more lift because I'm trying to beat a shift, trying to get it over the infield. The game is about power right now.
Right.
You know, we don't worry about strikeouts.
Well, that can change in that, you know, you're looking to do different things with your swing, but we're talking, that's January work. That's, you know, December and January work on your swing that maybe you can make some of those adjustments. But again, they better be fruitful adjustments, because if they're not, I can promise you what you're going to go back to.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to strike out 200 times in a season, you better be hitting 40 home runs.
Right.
I mean, that's just the way that it works. I mean, how many players can actually do that?
Here's a 2-1 pitch. Big curveball, 2-2.
I would be willing to bet, Danny, that in the next few years we watch baseball come all the way back around to the athletic types who put the ball in play more, who can not only hit home runs but hit doubles and triples and kind of do it all. we know how much this game cycles. We saw all the home runs last year. We saw what it did in free agency. Mark my words. I have a feeling that 2 or 3 years from now, we'll be talking about it on the other end. Because it was only a few seasons ago we were talking about where'd all the power go.
Right. 2-1 and the 3-2 pitch. And now the base is loaded. So 2 walks in the inning. And a single by Brian Anderson. And Tomas Talis will be the new batter.
Well, a real nice day from Brinson. 3 quality at bats. He continues to impress. This opening day, his target is starting to really come into view.
Brian Eversgerd is the pitching coach today. In regular season, he'll be the new bullpen coach of the Cardinals. Grew up a Cardinals fan, pitched for the Cardinals. Spent a number of years minor leagues as a pitching coach and gets a call to the show here in 2018. It's John Brebbia, right-hander. Was very good for the Cardinals a year ago, getting loose in their pen. So the corners are in for the Cardinals. Bases loaded. And nobody out for Tomas Talis. And he looks at a strike.
Quality at bats from Talis already this spring. He's come through a couple of times recently in these situations.
It's a fly ball into center. Thomas with the catch. His throw will go into short. Run does score to make it a 3-2 game. Here's Miguel Rojas with runners at first and second, 1 out, and a 1-run St. Louis lead.
A little impressive at bat his last time up for Rojas. Lined a single into center field off Waka.
Right now, Lions battling the strike zone a bit.
Sometimes too much movement is not a good thing. You're seeing that from Lions right now. See that 2-seam fastball right there, kind of exploding off the outside corner, not really catching it. Ideally would like to start that a little bit more over the plate so it tails to that outside corner. Miguel Rojas routinely in these situations loves to go the other way.
Tried to do it right there.
Sure did.
2 balls and 1 strike. Curveball and a beauty. 2-2. The Hollinsworth clan is just below us, too. Now, your poor wife has probably sat through 1,000 baseball games, and now she got to sit through another one.
Yes, Mrs. Holly is enjoying the day. She does. That's right. Well, she's a baseball mom. She knows it.
She gets it. There's a fly ball into right. Catch made by Garcia. He's got a very good arm and shows it off. And a run down here. And the tag turns into a double play. The strong arm of Adolis Garcia. Time to stretch, and it's 3-2. Budweiser, wherever legendary MLB moments happen, Budweiser will be there. by the Missouri Lottery. Every ticket played gives back to Missouri schools, so play it forward with the Missouri Lottery. And by Ford, going further so you can. Reminder that our next televised game for St. Louis will be tomorrow. For the Marlins, it'll be on Sunday. 3-2 is our score in the bottom of the 7th. Along with Todd Hollandsworth, I'm Dan McLaughlin. You were in a string. I was trying to think of this the other day. I really enjoyed the shared telecast because it's just fun.
Yeah.
Inside on both sides. But you were in a string of what, 5 in a row rookies of the year?
5 rookies of the year in a row. That is correct.
With the LA Dodgers.
And so the question I always pose to whenever that's brought up is, can you name them?
Let's say Nomo.
It's now a long time ago.
Well, give me a chance. Mondesi.
Yep.
Nomo. Piazza.
Right.
Hollandsworth.
Yeah. Oh, come on. I'll give you a clue. You ready?
Yeah. No. Karos.
Yeah, there you go. I was going to say we kind of sort of work with him, in a sort of way. We work for the same company.
That was pretty good.
There you go. You did it. You nailed it. Can you put them in order?
No. Not a chance. Here's Yadier Molina.
Definitely feeling good about his offensive game today. You see the numbers there. 3 for 3, solo homer, single and double. And man, oh man, he has been all over it. Rockets off the bat of Yadier Molina today.
Junichi Tazawa.
He had some mixed results last year. They'd love to see Tazawa really find that split finger fastball once again. Definitely had some bright moments last year where it really kind of locked in, but consistency on the whole was not there.
1-2 the count.
He's got to be down in the zone to be effective this year. They'd love to, like I said, see him develop. Back down in that zone and give them some meaningful innings late in games.
Mark Marshall is an asshole. I repeat, Mark Marshall is an asshole.
Two and two. Here's a 2-2 pitch to Yadier Molina. High fly ball, deep left field, and it's gone. His second home run of the day, and he's 4 for 4. What an afternoon for the Cardinals catcher, Yadier Molina.
My goodness gracious, Yadier Molina all over it. Well, we talked about the fastball's high velocity from Alcantara today that he jumped all over. This, a breaking ball. Had a game in form today. He is on it. So does he take the rest of spring training off? Wow. My goodness gracious.
Molina, a home run in the first, a base hit to center in the third, double in the fifth, and now another home run here in the seventh. Here's Randy Arozarena. And there's a fly ball out to left, and I'm still in spring training form thinking that had a chance. As the catch is made out left, we go back to Yadier Molina.
Well, this 12-6 curveball, you see it as it drops into the zone just above the knees. Yadi right on time. My goodness.
So that would be one of those guys you were talking about that wishes opening day was tomorrow.
You show up tomorrow morning for camp and you're like, what do I have to work on? I mean, what's left?
Here's Wilfredo Tovar.
Yeah, he's ready to go. Just send him up north now.
We saw a game earlier this season that Scott Van Slyke here in spring had 2 home runs against the Cardinals, one of those being a grand slam. And I believe that is Scott Van Slyke. Yep,
there
that's him in left field. got a chance to make this club.
Well, I was going to say, in Scott's case, I mean, those home runs mean everything because, again, you're trying to win that roster spot and prove that, yeah, there's some reps for you at the major league level and some opportunity there. And I think, again, in my opinion, he's going to get that opportunity.
Son of a longtime big leaguer and a very good one in Andy Van Slyke that is probably watching right now in St. Louis. Call St. Louis home. Had some good years with the Cardinals. Outstanding years with the Pirates.
Yeah, his dad, one of my favorite players growing up. In fact, I modeled a lot of my game after his father.
Is that right?
That's the absolute truth. Watched him growing up in a Pittsburgh Pirates uniform and liked his game. Fleet-footed center fielder when I was coming up, and that's kind of what I was. Wanted to be that as well.
2-1 pitch. Big arm, too. Big arm. 3-1 the count. I would think with the versatility that Scott has, and Don Mattingly knows him well from their time with the Dodgers, that Scott would make this club. He can play first base, right field, left field, if need be center, and give you that quote-unquote professional at bat off the bench.
I think that is spot on, Dan. I really do, and I think, again, that's what's going to benefit him.
3-2 the count on Wilfredo Tovar. And a ground ball that's hit to second. Out number 2, and it brings in Luke Voit.
We mentioned versatility. Getting back to Van Slyke, the more versatile you are, I mean, it's exactly what I'm anticipating is, interchangeable parts. We talked about Dietrich a little bit earlier. He's probably going to play some left and some right. I mean, maybe the only guy on the field for the Marlins come, opening day, or maybe the two guys. JT Realmuto will be behind the plate. Justin Poor will be over at first base. Everything else is open for interpretation.
Get after it.
Yeah, perform. And that's what a lot of what you've seen in spring training so far. We say, well, the Marlins are 12-6; they're playing great. They are, but it's that organizational internal competition that you've got going in position battles, and that's it. So when you go out there and you're performing, you're not only going up against the Cardinals, you're also in a lot of ways competing against the guy next to you.
Sure, you're highly motivated. You want a major league job, trying to make a roster.
And that's the major difference between these two teams today. The St. Louis Cardinals, I assume, and I really do believe, I've looked at their roster in and out, all spring long. There's not a whole lot of conversation when it comes to position battles.
No.
In Marlins camp, that's really the number one topic of conversation is the position battles.
Yeah, 1 through 8 for the Cardinals, that's pretty much settled. Here's a 1-1. In years past, we'd say the Marlins, boy, that trio in the outfield is maybe the best in the game. I thought it was. The Cardinals this year with Ozuna and Pham, if he can do what he did last year, come close to it. Fowler and Wright, that's a good trio.
I agree. Very talented bunch.
Here's a 2-1 pitch to Luke Voit. 2-2.
I think about the Central Division. And if everything kind of goes as planned, man, oh man, what a late August and September you're going to be enjoying. Yeah, I was thinking about that actually on my way in today, and with what Milwaukee has done and how competitive they were last year, looking to take the next step. Craig Counsell and his crew, obviously the Cubs in Chicago and St. Louis Cardinals. You've got the potential for 3 teams that could really push each other all the way to the very end.
Be fun. 2-2 pitch. Little check swing by Voit, and Tazawa will just step on the bag. Yadier Molina, 4 hits today, including a pair of home runs. Moments ago, his second of the day to make it 4-2. We head to the 8th.
WB Mason, who but WB Mason, the official office supply company of the Miami Marlins. Yep.
Spring training rolls on, and the Hollingsworth crew is, well, they're ready to play.
They are. They've got their gloves on. Those are my 2 guys down there on the end. See Trey down there in his orange jersey. Marlins jersey, got his glove on, he's looking for a foul ball. There's Tug right next to him, a couple of friends and a friend's father.
They're fired up. They're ready to roll. Here's Dominic Leone. Could be the Cardinals closer.
Yep.
Seen him in the National League. He was with Arizona, then Toronto, and then traded this offseason. And the first pitch taken in the dirt. Garrett Cooper at the plate. How visible has Derek Jeter been in particular in South Florida and with the fan base?
He has, and I really think it's starting to, maybe the right way to say it is pick up. I think those initial, 6 weeks, 8 weeks were, I don't want to necessarily call them difficult. I don't know. I think there was a lot of expectation that were put on him, and of course the Marlins fans were certainly, upset with some of the trades and things that went down. But all in all, from everything that I'm hearing, things are really starting to turn in the right direction. The transparency is, as I mentioned, that I learned from the Cubs organization as they were working through, rebuilding their organization from the ground up, is really starting to happen here. Things are happening in a way where Derek is absolutely, the man for the job. He's in the position to be there for the fans, to be the front man on the organization, and is certainly understands and is listening to the fans. Maybe that's the key word, is listening to this fan base, and I think that's going to be an important ingredient to grow, again, your fan base.
No doubt. You would like to think that the players like Brinson and some of the younger players that they have acquired, when they do grow into stars, you'd like to think that the fan base would say, hey, I'm going to believe in this. I'm going to jump on this, follow it, with the understanding that it's a two-way street and this doesn't get gutted again.
Well, and my understanding is that's their intentions. I mean, of course, the only way to really answer that question is with time. I mean, to see what the organization looks like a year from now, 2 years from now. I mean, we may have this conversation, you and I, a year from now, and the Marlins could be farther along than we could have expected. Maybe they won't be. I anticipate that they will. But as I mentioned, the transparency, getting your players to believe in it. The first question I wrote down in all of my notes, and I'm a huge note taker. You know that about me as you see all this stuff laying around, is there going to be a Marlin way? Everybody else seems to have a way. As you know, there's a Cardinal way. The Cardinals carry themselves a particular way. They handle themselves a way. There's a way. A lot of organizations have, this is how we choose to do things. There is a Marlin way. In fact, now in play, I can say this because I speaking as a former Marlin player, there wasn't always a Marlin way. There is now, and that's what you're going to teach your younger generation and your younger players. This is who we are. This is how we handle ourselves. This is how we take care of things on and off the field, and that's what you're going to get these young men to buy into.
There's J.B. Shuck. I think it's well put. You got to have direction.
That's right.
What you believe in as an organization, and buy-in. From top to bottom, you got to have it.
Well, I think one of the things they're really targeting are the players that South Florida produces yearly. The talent that comes out of South Florida is enormous compared to other states. There's no doubt about it, but a lot of these players have ended up in different marketplaces throughout the game, and I think that this organization really has said to themselves how we can no longer allow these young, talented players to slip through our fingers. They're ours. They're our local kids. We need to do a good job of being out in front of this and making them the fabric of our organization.
Sure.
Brinson is that. I mean, he's from Florida. He's from South Florida, the Fort Lauderdale area, grew up in Coral Spring. I mean, this is somebody that you rally around. You build around players like that.
J.B. Shuck is the batter. 2 balls and 1 strike with 1 out and nobody on. One thing we've seen with Dominic Leone here in this camp, pretty good slider that when he's right, it's a wipeout type pitch.
You just saw it right there.
Yep.
Certainly in a big spot. And the fact that he trusted it on that 2-1 pitch certainly says something about the pitch. He trusts it and he wants to go to it.
Now the 2-2 in the dirt. Right-hander getting loose for the Marlins in their pen. Don't see this all that often, but midway through spring and your starting catcher, who could be on the brink of the Hall of Fame, is behind the plate still. Late innings, and that's Yadier Molina.
Yeah, that very well may be a byproduct of the split squad or the fact that he's 4 for 4 today. Maybe that has something to do with it. I bet he gets a day off tomorrow.
A little bit of both, probably. Yeah. The strikeout of Shuck And there's 2 away. This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the Cardinals and Marlins. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals and Miami Marlins. Todd Hollandsworth, Dan McLaughlin with you on Fox Sports Florida and Midwest. And a strike to Scott Van Slyke. Grew up in St. Louis, went to high school there, and was off to pro ball. He's had a nice career. Driven in 7 this spring, hit .267.
Very good power. You mentioned the 2 home runs a little bit earlier. A 2-homer game. Certainly would love to believe he could be maybe a right-handed complement to a few of the different lefties on this Marlins roster. If in fact he can provide that right-handed power, particularly against lefties. May just see that.
Two balls and 1 strike. That's a veteran that doesn't chase on a borderline pitch.
1 pitch, 1 spot. That's what you're looking for. Certainly don't want to give any at-bats away. Veteran approach here, and even in a spring training game, you certainly understand that. You don't want to just go up there thinking you're going to get something to hit every at-bat.
And the 3-1.
Real
he
good.
Draws a walk.
Nicely done.
So a 2-out walk, and it brings the tying run to the plate. Christian Adames. If you think about the East, is there any other choice outside of Washington? I mean, we talked about the Mets and very good starting pitching. As the pickoff is there, and Yadi's done a little bit of everything. What a game he has had. The pickoff of Van Slyke, 2 home runs, 4 for 4, and the chance of Yadi here at Roger Dean.
By WB Mason. Who but WB Mason, the official office supply company of the Miami Marlins. And by Steak and Shake, famous for steak burgers.
We're at the bottom of the 8th, a score of 4-2. The Cardinals about hit the Marlins 8-6 in this game. Well, for those of you that are watching on Fox Sports Midwest, we have seen it time and time and time again. The pickoff throw of Yadier Molina happened so many times when he was a teammate of Albert Pujols. Those two just seem to be always on the same page. Drew Steckenrider is the new pitcher, and a base hit by Garcia. But he is at a level that a lot of people wish to get to mentally and physically in this game. I mean, he's just a step ahead of a lot of people.
Yeah. Let's take a look at it one more time. It's just it's a quick snap. I mean, of course, there's the timing. It's got a little bit too far off first base, but here's the conversation. It goes a little something like this. He'll backpick. I mean, this is how it's going to go. Don't wander too far off. Yadi's going to throw. He loves to throw to bases. Yeah. When I played, I was just telling you, Yadi picked me off. Now, thankfully that day, I didn't get called out. I was out, but the call was missed. So, I mean, again, but he'll do it to you. And my situation was worse. The bases were loaded. Oof. Nearly got picked off first base.
Where were you going, Hollandsworth?
Thank you. Right, where was I going? That's my point. That's what I'm getting at here.
Well, that's what I mean. He does it at times that you would least expect it, or in situations you'd say, well, there's no reason to throw, but yet he does do that. He's such a cerebral player.
He's so quick. He's got such quick hands, and his accuracy on the throws, particularly to bases, it's Hall of Fame material.
Here's an 0-2 pitch to Patrick Wisdom, fouled back.
Second rider into the ball game. Good stuff last year. Going to be leaned upon again this year, late in innings, late in games for the Marlins.
Potential closer.
Absolutely. He's got the demeanor, he's got the makeup, and the stuff.
The swing and a miss, and out at second base. Strike him out, throw him out, double play.
Nice job by Talise. Throw short hops in. Play at second base as well, but that throw right on the money. My favorite kind of double play right there. Strike him out, throw him out. Damas, nice job on the short hop to get that quick tag on him.
Reminder that Edward Jones, for the Cardinal fans, sponsors the Cardinals Hall of Fame, and voting is open right now at cardinals.com/HOF. This is Woodman at the plate and Steckenrider. And it's 1 ball and 1 strike. Cardinals have a right-hander getting loose in their pen and getting ready for the top of the 9th. It's 4-2 our score. Good pitch in on his hands.
You mentioned, would he get some opportunities to close? Whether it's this year or not, I don't know. I'm certainly going to answer, but I mean, he has got all of the ingredients. My guess is that at some point this year, he'll probably get a few opportunities to close out some games. He certainly can get it done.
And a strikeout
right there.
Yep. Bud Norris was the right-hander getting loose. Looks like he has the 9th when we come back. Fox Sports Florida and Fox Sports Midwest. And for those of you watching on the Marlins side, the Marlins' next telecast will be Sunday. They will be in Tampa, and they'll be taking on Aaron Boone and the New York Yankees, and that will be Sunday, the next telecast on Fox Sports Florida. Big day for Yadier Molina. A 4-hit day, and it's a 4-2 Cardinals lead. No surprise here. Welcome back. It's our Budweiser player of the game, Yadier Molina. 4 for 4 with a pair of home runs. He's also picked off a man that was Scott Van Slyke at first, but a big day for the Cardinal catcher.
Well, Dan, we'll start with the offense. How impressive has that been? I mean, look at the variety of pitches. Elevated fastball down in the zone, then one in off the plate, yanked that for a double. And oh, by the way, the cherry on top, a big curveball that he takes out for his 4th hit, that solo home run.
It's fun to watch. It's been fun over the years to watch him. So here's Bud Norris, and from the Cardinals' perspective, gives them flexibility. Mike Matheny saying the other day that Bud now exclusively working out of the bullpen. There was some thought that he might get some innings in as a starter, but they have scratched that idea, and he will be a late inning addition to the bullpen. Actually closed games out last year with the Angels.
Right. Well, and I think in that case, this probably will serve Norris well. I mean, he's had success in both as a starter, as a reliever now. Go back to last year, but coming over, having a clear-cut, defined role probably would help him a little bit more, at least in my personal opinion. The reason I say that is the longer you're in this game, now Bud Norris has been around for a little while, you kind of crave that. The swingmen, it seems like it's harder on the older players, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I guess I hear it, the guys that have been around, minimum 4, 5, 6 seasons, but you say, yeah, well, if I knew what my role was a little bit more. It seems like you hear it a little bit more from the veterans than you do the young guys. The young guys are like, hey, just give me the ball. I'll do whatever you ask.
I think older guys want it because they maybe in their minds, they've earned that right too.
Right.
To have a role, to have a defined part of the team, whatever that may be. And also for preparation with their body.
Right.
Adames grounds out. Best way to catch spring training baseball, the Marlins and the Cardinals, is with the MLB At Bat app. The app will keep you connected every day with calls, highlights, stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB At Bat now. It's your #1 baseball app. Eric Campbell at the plate. One of those guys that will have a role of some sort is Ichiro, who signed with Seattle. And you had a chance to see him last few years. He had hit number 3,000 wearing that Marlins uniform.
A couple seasons ago.
What a treat that must have been to watch him every day.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the level of professionalism is unparalleled, really. You know, you look at how he preps. I think the thing that, you know, amazed me so much last year, and I remember, he was our fourth outfielder. Christian Yelich didn't get hurt, didn't miss any time. Marcell Ozuna didn't get hurt, didn't miss any time. Stanton had, you know, the best year of his career, didn't really miss any time. So there wasn't a whole lot of starts for him. Now, he pinch hit every day. 2 o'clock, first guy in the clubhouse, prepping himself for his day's work. I mean, this is a guy at the age of 44, but, I mean, again, knew what was in front of him. Knew that, you know, starting probably wasn't going to happen. In fact, didn't make very many starts. But the reality is he was a great example to everybody who walked past him on how you prepare yourself for a baseball game, how you get yourself ready, even if it's just going to be a pinch hit in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning every night.
2-1 is hit up the middle and a base hit. Tell you what, there's a young fan that's in the front row, and he is eyeing up Bud Norris. Take a look at this young man. I mean, he's got the timing down. He's got the load, little step.
That's right. You know, it's funny. I tell my little guys, I say, we have this little saying. We say, when does your at-bat start? We say, in the on-deck circle, because that's where your at-bat actually starts. You start timing up the pitcher, and he's doing just that. Look at that.
I'll tell you what, he's a lefty. I want to sign him up.
That's right.
I only take 57.5%. That's my commission. I think I'm being fair.
In today's rates, that's a pretty good haul for you.
Yeah, I just need one.
That's right.
Need one good guy.
That's right.
Got to have a little plate discipline, too, though. He's been swinging at everything.
He'll learn that.
Peter Mooney at the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike.
A real nice at bat by Campbell. Certainly setting the stage here for maybe an eventful 9th inning. Got to get a runner on. See him over at first base. That base hit back up the middle. Marlins now have an opportunity to maybe tie this ball game up or put a little pressure on Bud Norris and the Cardinals.
Just missed. 2 balls and 1 strike.
And Marlins have done this a few times this spring. It's how it adds up to a 12-6 record. They have not given away very many at-bats, even late in games. Sometimes you'll see that with the veteran crews. You know, as the game moves on, those at-bats get a little looser.
Yeah.
Not for the Marlins, as we talked about. Most of these hitters, every at-bat matters.
The 2-1. Now 3 balls and 1 strike. Seeing the crowds really pick up down here at spring training. School's out with spring break, so families coming on down, make it a vacation. Another big crowd here today. Good pitch on the 3-1, went with a breaking ball.
It's been a tough, pretty tough winter up in the Midwest. Wouldn't you agree? I think a lot of people are just trying to get away from the
little chilly
snow, and it seems like it's just. I picked a good time to move to South Florida.
You did.
Is what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, weather a little different down here.
Sure.
3-2 pitch. Missed on the outside corner. So now the tying runs, first and second, the go-ahead run is at the plate. Braxton Lee will be the hitter now for the Marlins. 4-2 our score. If the Cardinals can hold on, they'd go above 500 here this spring to 10-9-2. That's right, there are ties in spring training. Been a lot of talk about the 11th inning and extra innings, and minor league baseball will do this, putting a runner at second base, start the inning.
And there's a very, very, I mean, I've seen it for years now with my kids. I mean, it's, I believe they call it well, maybe it's a modified version of the California rule where you put a runner on second base.
Right.
I don't believe that they're putting a runner on second base. I haven't read it too extensively because, of course, we're not dealing with it at the major league level. So it's just a runner on second base with nobody out, correct? Right. I believe the California rule by definition is a runner on second and one out. That is not going to be the case, but you're right. I don't know. I find it very, very interesting. I don't ever see it affecting the Major League game. I really don't. But I suppose, I guess, on some levels, I see it in the minor leagues. The travel is so different. And probably the importance that's riding on the games is definitely valued differently in the minor leagues than it is at the Major League level.
I would say this. We've had a couple of games last 2 years that have gone 17, 18 innings. And what it does to a bullpen and a pitching staff, it does have a lingering effect.
Well, and I think in a lot of ways, I guess, being a former player, but those lasting effects, whether you're for the Cardinals or against the Cardinals, however you choose to look at it, is, part of dealing with an extra inning ball game. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I understand what you're saying in the point, like, if you're a Cardinal fan, you're saying, yeah, see, I would argue against that. But I guess in my opinion is that, that's always been part of the game. How are you going to manipulate the late innings?
I'm with you.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening at the Major League level because of those very reasons. Yeah, you're right. I mean, choose through a bullpen. You probably use maybe even a starter. Tomorrow's starter may have been in there somewhere. But there's always, these things that can happen. But the reality is that, how much does that game mean to you? What are you willing to wager?
As the great Tim McCarver tells me on our broadcast when I make a point, and it might be a point that he doesn't necessarily agree with,
right?
He'll say, Dan, it's the big leagues, man.
Right.
It's the big leagues.
Right.
So you deal with those kind of things. That's his point. That's it out of play. And that's to the greater point of it. Yeah, you go 17, 18, 19, 20 innings. Deal with it.
Right.
That's where you find out your depth in your minor leagues. That's where that starter.
Well, in a lot of ways it could affect the rest of the week. And I guess, again, this is probably the wrong time to have this conversation, you and I. We love to talk baseball. We could do it all day long. But, like the September rosters,
right.
That's what I think about when we start to talk about these modified rules. I think about September baseball. You go up against a contender. You've got guys falling out of the dugout.
Right.
They've got so many guys over there. And then you got a non-contender, and there's like 4 prospects that got called up. I mean, and again, you get into that type of game you just talked about. That's what you're guarding against.
Yeah. The 2-2 pitch to Braxton Lee. The biggest problem I have with September is that you've played 5 months one way, and now all of a sudden you're going to change in the final month?
It's the matter the most. What did I just say to you about it 2 or 3 innings ago? I'm looking forward to the Cardinals and the Cubs and the Brewers having a great late August and September, and so much of that may depend on the minor league systems of all 3 organizations.
2-2 the count now on Lee. Runners at first and second. Little flare hit down the left field line, but foul.
Putting together an at-bat right now, hanging in there, fighting off some tough pitches. A couple of curveballs, a fastball as well up top.
7 pitches in this at-bat for Lee. And a long inning here for Norris, 21 pitches. As we mentioned about with Norris earlier, he was stretched out, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Tied him up, and he wins the battle, so gets the strikeout. Couldn't hold up, and there's 2 outs.
Hard slider right there. You see the action as it kind of bores in on Lee. Debatable call on that check swing, but Norris gets it. 2 outs here in the 9th.
See Yadier Molina setting the defense, and this might be one of those times that he would go out and have a mound visit.
Right.
So 2 outs and 2 on. There's strike 1. Tomas Telis at the plate. The final hope here for the Marlins, trying to extend the inning and the ball game. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Well, for Norris, he certainly could be a weapon late in ball games. You look at his arsenal, he kind of brings everything to the table. You've seen the curveball. He'll throw a changeup as well. That little hard slider that we just saw to Lee, as well as his fastball, makes him a little bit different for a closer.
Yep.
Of course, that prep, we had A.J. Ramos with the Marlins. He was very similar, but he came out every day. It was like, either the slider or the curveball kind of was there every day. It wasn't always both, but one was always there. He paired it with a good changeup and a good fastball.
1 and 2.
You can't have a closer who can do that.
Cardinals signed Luke Gregerson, Bud Norris, traded for Leon, so they've really remade their bullpen. Luke Gregerson was throwing on the backfields today here at the complex. Been dealing with a sore oblique. The dreaded oblique. And the 1-2. 2 and 2.
Norris continues to nibble with that fastball off that outside corner, particularly the left-handed hitters. Let's see if he's setting up that hard breaking ball that he threw to Lee on the inside part of the plate. My guess is he probably is.
The 2-2. Molina wanted it up, not that high. And the count runs full, so ball in the gap could tie this game. Runners off with the pitch. Three, 3-2 is pulled foul. Three-two again. Ground ball that's hit to short. This should do it. Cross the diamond, and the Cardinals hold on for a 4-2 win over Miami. Well, again, partner, this was fun.
Enjoyed it, Dan. Had a lot of fun. Good luck to the St. Louis Cardinals this year. This Miami Marlins team playing pretty good baseball. Should be a interesting, fun season for them.
But Norris gets the final 3 outs. Cardinals hold on, and a big day for Yadier Molina. 4-2 the final. Back with more and to wrap it up in just a moment.